So in today video we will discuss about what is a transaction in SQL Server. Okay, so if you see the definition of the transaction is pretty much straightforward. Like in SQL Server, a transaction is a logical unit of work that groups one or more SQL statements so they are executed as a single operation. So what does it mean? Basically, the SQL transactions are treated as a single unit of work irrespective of how much SQL queries we are writing inside that. All we need to do is we just have to follow a syntax something like we can say begin transaction and then SQL queries. So whatever the queries that we will be writing, the entire queries will be treated as a single unit of work, and then those transactions either can be rollback or can be committed. So this is what basically today we are going to discuss, like what is transaction in SQL Server. So I will open this one, and here I already have created one table called employee, and inside that, suppose I just want to update the employee age. So here the query I have written is update employee set age equal to 31 where id equal to 1. Now if I hit something like this, so when I execute this SQL queries with the begin transaction, it means we are making this as update query as a part of transaction, and at later point of time it must be either rollback or either it can be committed. So rollback in the sense if anything wrong happened or we want to undo the changes, we will go with rollback transaction. Otherwise, if we are satisfied and we want to keep this change, then we can commit. So commit is nothing but it can be considered as a permanent change in the database. So for example, let's say what happens, began transaction and then I'm trying to update. So if I run this, it says one row affected. When I hit again the employee record, so this is updated also. But is it permanent? No, this is not permanent yet, because to make this permanent, we have to execute the command commit transaction. Once this query will be executed, then this will save into the table permanently. Otherwise, it can be undo also. So if I don't want this to keep as it is, in that case, I will go with rollback transaction. So let's check whether this is permanently stored or not. So I have opened the another connection, and here if I run again this query, so I will not be able to see the record in this table. The reason is कि already one transaction is running against this table, and hence as long as that transaction will not be completed, I will not be able to see the record of this table. Why? Because by default the transaction isolation label is set to read committed, in the sense we can read only the data which is already committed into the table. All uncommitted data we can't set. So currently, if you remember, I just executed these two lines. Then after that, neither I rolled back this nor I commit this. So it means this transaction is yet not completed. And when I am running this, you see, it says executing. This query is executing, but it will never show me any data as long as this query will be completed. Okay. So if I go here, we will not be able to see, because as I mentioned, like the default isolation label is set to read committed. If I want, like, hey, I want to see uncommitted data also, in that case we have to run the query set transaction isolation label to read uncommitted, because currently this is the default. Committed is the default label, isolation label, which is set by default. We have to explicitly tell, like, okay, whatever even the uncommitted data are present, those data also we want to see. In that case, read uncommitted. So as long as we will run this query, first let me cancel this because it is executing. I will cancel, then I will set the isolation to read uncommitted also. Remember, this 31 is still not committed. So we are thinking, okay, if it is not committed, I want to change my isolation level to read uncommitted data also. Once this query will execute, after that we can see and it will start showing this. But remember, still this one is not committed, and when I hit the rollback transaction, in the sense we are undoing, then whatever the previous value we had for this, we will revert it to those values. So let me execute. The transaction is rollback. Now if I hit again, automatically this will revert to its actual value, which was 30. So you see it is 30. So this is how basically rollback sorry transaction works. And also suppose this is something that I told you, that if a transaction has begun, it must either be rollback or it can be commit. Okay, any one of these have to be executed, then only a transaction will be treated as completed. This time I executed the rollback, hence it undid to its previous value. Now I want this to make it permanent change. In that case, I will run this. Let me, let me comment this rollback, and I want to make it, save permanently. In that case, simply I will run commit also. So all these three queries I will run, and then since I hit the commit transaction, so now it's saved permanently, and this time I can see it is saved permanently. So this is a, 31 is something which is saved into the table permanently. And now even though if I hit the rollback, the began transaction was already completed. Now if I try to roll back, this time I will get error, because the transaction which was began, that was completed also by executing this query, right? So now if I try hitting this, I will get the error, and obviously the error says the rollback transaction request has no corresponding began transaction. Okay, and it actually makes sense also that we must have a transaction began, then only we can either go with the rollback transaction or commit transaction in order to make that transaction completed. Okay, so this is how basically the transaction works. Okay, so that's it about the transaction. Thank you.